A story has been going viral over the Republic of Kenya. Today morning, we received the news of the release of Kenyan activists Bon Njagi and Michael, who had been kidnapped in Uganda. For the last 39 days, they have been under the custody of the Ugandan forces. The question that many have been asking: why now did the government saw it fit to intervene in the release of the said Kenyan activist? But as you all know, the Kenyan government, led by President William Ruto and his cabinet secretary Musalia Mudavadi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, they know how to take credit of things that they haven't done. Today, bloggers affiliated with William Ruto's government have taken it upon themselves to spread misinformation on how William Ruto and Musalia Mudavadi intervened in securing the release of Bob Njagi and Michael Oyoo. But truth be told, something that Kenyans didn't know is that the hand of the former president of the Republic of Kenya is the one that led to the release of the said activist that had been abducted in Uganda. Kenyan activists had been camping outside the Ugandan embassy and the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, requesting for the intervention of the Kenyan government in requesting for the release of Bob Njagi and Michael Oyoo. For a few days, they stayed there. They demonstrated outside the offices of one Musalia Mudavadi, but he never in any way intervened for the release of these young men. But he saw it fit to take credit of something that they hadn't done. As I speak right now, I want to read to you a statement of Musalia Mudavadi speaking about securing the release of Bob Njagi and Michael Oyoo. Listen to what Musalia Mudavadi had to say. Update on the safe release of two Kenyan citizens abducted in Uganda. He says the Kenyan government welcomes the safe release of our two citizens, Mr. Bob Njagi and Mr. Nicholas Oyoo. Not Michael, it is Nicholas Oyoo, who had been abducted by armed men around the Kireka area in Kampala, Uganda on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. Following sustained diplomatic engagement between Kenya and Uganda, including a formal letter I personally addressed to Honorable General Odongo Jenje Abubakar, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Uganda, both governments maintained open and constructive communication that has culminated in the safe release of our nationals. Late last night, the two were released to our High Commission in Uganda, His Excellency Njagi Joash. They were escorted by the ambassador and officials of the Ugandan government to the Busia border town, where they were received by the Busia County Commissioner, Mr. Chaunga Mwachaunga. The government of Kenya expresses its deep appreciation to the government of Uganda for the cooperation extended throughout this process, and to our diplomatic team in Kampala for their vigilance, commitment, and professionalism. Arrangements have been finalized to ensure the two Kenyans reunite safely with their families. The safety and well-being of Kenyan citizens abroad remain a non-negotiable priority for the government of Kenya. We continue to urge all Kenyans living, working, or traveling abroad to remain vigilant and to maintain regular contact with our embassies and consulate for timely assistance and updates. Now, that is Musalia Mudavadi actually taking credit for the work that he didn't do. Allow me to say that. The intervention for the release of these young men, it was not because of one Musalia Mudavadi. It was because of somebody else, a man high up in the ranks, to actually convince the Ugandan government or the Ugandan president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, to let go of Kenyans that had been abducted in Uganda. Now, remember, the two had gone to visit or to attend the launch, the manifesto launch of Bob Wine's political career as he launches his bid for the presidency. Bob Wine reacted to this matter and the release of these young men by saying this. After 39 days under incommunicado detention and torture, our Kenyan brothers Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo have been dumped at the Kenya-Uganda border at Busia border by the Museveni regime. They are now headed back to Nairobi. I have just spoken to them and they have told me that they were being held by Museveni's son at Kasenyi military barracks. They were being interrogated about why they came to Uganda and attended our manifesto launch in Jinja. You can imagine after 39 days, the judiciary came out boldly and justified this criminality instead of pushing the criminal regime to produce them. Like we have said many times, Uganda is under a complete military dictatorship. No wonder this dictatorship is being transplanted in other countries of the region. We all have a duty to free Uganda from the despot and the rest of East Africa will be free. Welcome back, brothers. Pole sana, aluta continua. Now, that is what one Bob Wine had to say. I want to read to you a statement publicized by Cyprian Nyakundi on the matter of the release of the said Kenyans. He says, former President Uhuru Kenyatta has been acknowledged by human rights groups and legal bodies for his role in helping secure the release of Kenyan activist Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo from Ugandan custody, with several voices noting that his discreet diplomatic involvement proved instrumental after weeks of stalemate between Nairobi and Kampala. The recognition comes as criticism continues over the government's slow and opaque handling of the case, with observers arguing that it was largely informal pressure and political goodwill rather than official diplomacy that ultimately led to the activists' release after their alleged torture in Uganda. Now, munasikia, it is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta who secured the release of these men. It is not President William Ruto, sublocation chief masquerading as the cabinet secretary of foreign affairs, Musalia Mudavadi. Musalia Mudavadi cannot even intervene for himself nor his wife. He cannot even intervene for his children. He has no voice of speaking for the people of the Republic of Kenya. But because they know now to take credit of things that they haven't done, is how they are jumping now into the wagon of celebrating the release of Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo. Yet they themselves failed. I know, something that we all must come into an agreement with. If a Kenyan is abducted or taken into custody in a country like Uganda, what does it take for the Kenyan government to intervene and have them brought into the country? It is just like in 2 days or 3 days and they are released. But now imagine these men stayed incommunicado for the last 39 days. And now Musalia Mudavadi tells us that he secured their release. One thing we're being told, the Nairobi Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been pressuring, has been trying so much to at least get the attention of the Ugandan government to release these young men, because they know that Kenyans are hungry and they could do something if these people had gone for so long without being released. Remember, Bob Njagi is somebody that was again abducted together with the Longton brothers during the Gen Z demonstration, and they stayed in custody for over 60 days. Now, the man again has spent another 39 days incommunicado in Uganda. And all we can say is that President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta remains as an instrument of change in the Kenyan Republic. That one, we cannot deny him. For those that are thinking that the intervention of President William Ruto or Musalia Mudavadi led to the release of these young men, you should rethink again, because that is not true. For now, that's what's up. Leave a comment in the comment section. See you in our next video. This is the Kenyan Daily Report.